You ever noticed how the second you spray something, the bugs just leave for a week and come right back? Like they clocked out for lunch and clocked back in. That's because spray is a mood. It fades. But a living plant that's doing its job every single day, that doesn't fade. That's a system. And today, I'm walking you through 11 plants I keep working in my garden all year that quietly do more pest control than anything I've ever bought in a bottle. If you're just finding this channel, I'm Marcus, and I garden down here on the Gulf Coast, Zone 9B, which means brutal summers, sandy soil that drains before you can blink, and a pest calendar that basically never closes. What we do here is figure out what actually holds up in real heat, real dirt, and real bugs, not the pretty picture book version of gardening. Keep it simple, keep it honest. And if that sounds like your kind of channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, because I've got a new one dropping every week, and I don't want you missing it. Before we get into the list, let's clear something up, because I see this mistake constantly. Companion planting is not cram whatever you have into whatever space is left. That's not a method, that's just a crowded bed. And sometimes it works by accident, but accidents aren't a strategy you can repeat. Real companion planting means every single plant in that bed is on the clock. Some are decoys, some are bodyguards, some are basically calling in backup from the sky. You're not decorating a garden, you're building a small working team, and every member has a job description. Number 1, basil. Everybody's heard plant basil by your tomatoes. Fine, sure, but that's only half the story, and half the story is why half the people who try it say it didn't work. Basil earns its keep around your whole nightshade family. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, because they all get hunted by the same crew. Hornworms, aphids, whiteflies. Basil doesn't fight them. It jams their signal. It throws off such a heavy scent cloud that the pests literally can't zero in on the plant they're hunting. Here's the mistake almost everybody makes, and I made it too for a couple seasons. They tuck one basil plant on one side and call it done. That's not a barrier, that's a suggestion. You need basil ringing the plant, front, back, both sides, so the scent is coming at the pest from every direction at once, like they walked into a room where the smell has no origin point. I learned this the hard way with hornworms chewing my tomato leaves down to the ribs while a single sad basil plant sat there doing absolutely nothing. The season I finally surrounded the bed instead of accessorizing it, the difference was night and day. Stop thinking of basil as a garnish. Think of it as a perimeter fence made of smell. Number 2, garlic and onions. If your leafy greens or root crops keep getting hammered by aphids, garlic and onions are your first responders. Aphids are drawn to those crops like it's an open buffet, and the sulfur compounds garlic and onions release into the air are basically a get-out sign that aphids can't stand to be near. What I like about this pair is they don't need a season to build up. They start working almost immediately. Tuck them right in at the base of whatever you're protecting, close enough that the plant is standing inside the scent cloud, not next door to it. I did exactly that with a bed of collards and kale this year. Garlic and onion tucked right in at the base, and I'm talking barely a mark on those leaves. In this heat, they're already stressed enough without bugs piling on, so having that base level protection built in changes the whole outcome. Number 3, mint. Keep it in pots. I will die on this hill. Mint in the ground is basically a hostile takeover of your raised bed, so contain it, and don't let it fool you with those innocent little leaves. Where mint really shines is around your fruit trees. Citrus, figs, stone fruit, all of them deal with moths and aphids that hunt by scent trail, and mint straight up scrambles that trail. I keep potted mint stationed at the base of my citrus and pulled in close to my fig tree, and I noticed a real drop in aphid activity once I started grouping several pots together instead of just one lonely pot off in a corner. Think of it less like a plant and more like a jammer you're placing at the perimeter of a high-value target. Number 4, rosemary. This one's the muscle for your beans and your brassicas, both of which take a beating from bean beetles and cabbage moths. Rosemary's got this heavy, woody scent that those particular pests genuinely cannot stand. And as a bonus, in a hot climate like ours, rosemary doesn't just survive the summer, it thrives in it while half your other herbs are throwing in the towel. Plant it at the edge of your bean row or right alongside your brassicas, and then be patient because rosemary needs a full season to really bulk up and start throwing scent across a wide area. Once it's established, though, it's covering serious ground. Here's a small trick that made a real difference for me. Plant it on the side of the bed your prevailing wind comes from, so the scent gets carried across the entire bed instead of just sitting in one spot.
Number 5. Chives. Peppers, carrots, and even your roses and ornamentals benefit from having chives nearby. Aphids on peppers are especially bad news because they multiply so fast they can stunt the whole plant before you even notice something's wrong. Chives build a scent wall right at the base of the pepper that aphids just won't cross. Around carrots, they help throw off carrot flies the same way. Plant them tight against the base of whatever you're protecting, not scattered around the edges, right up against the stem. They're compact enough that they won't crowd anything out. And here's the part people get wrong. Don't cut the flowers off. I know it looks tidier, I know it feels like you're preventing them from going to seed, but those blooms are a magnet for beneficial insects. Let them flower and your chives are doing double duty, repelling the bad guys and recruiting the good guys at the same time. Number 6. Dill. Most folks think dill's only job is ending up in a pickle jar. In the garden, its real job is recruiting an air force. Dill draws in parasitic wasps, tiny, almost invisible things whose entire purpose in life is hunting down caterpillars and hornworms, laying eggs inside them, and that's the end of that pest's story. It also pulls in lacewings and hoverflies, both of which go after aphids. One plant, multiple hired guns. Plant dill near your tomatoes, peppers, and brassicas, basically wherever the heaviest pest pressure lives, and then just let it go. Let it get tall and a little wild. That's not neglect, that's the plan working. Number 7. Zinnias. Zinnias are one of my favorites because I barely have to replant them. They reseed themselves so easily that every year I get a little surprise crop popping up without lifting a finger. Think of zinnias as the landing strip for every beneficial creature passing through your yard. Ladybugs, parasitic wasps, birds that specialize in caterpillars. Once they land in your zinnias, they don't just leave, they stick around and start patrolling. Ever watch a bird dive into a garden bed like it's on a mission? It's hunting. It found food. That's exactly the behavior you want to invite in, and zinnias are the invitation. Plant them near your tomatoes and squash where caterpillar and beetle pressure tends to run highest, and keep deadheading the spent blooms so fresh flowers keep opening. Fresh flowers means fresh activity, and fresh activity means your garden's got eyes on it that you didn't have to pay for. Number 8. French marigolds, and only French marigolds. This is the part that trips people up. African marigolds are not the same plant for this purpose, so don't grab the wrong one at the nursery and wonder why nothing changed. There's an underground enemy in a lot of our soil down here called the root knot nematode, microscopic worms that attack roots from below while the plant above ground just looks confused. It's yellowing, it's wilting in the morning even though you watered, it's just not producing and you have no idea why, because the actual crime scene is buried where you can't see it. French marigold moots release a compound called thiophene that's toxic to those nematodes. But here's the key. You can't just ring the border of your garden with them and call it done. You need them worked into the actual bed, mixed in among your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant, so their roots are doing their job in the same soil your crops are rooted in. This one's a slow burn. Plant them, let them finish the season, then till them under instead of pulling them so the roots keep breaking down in the soil over winter. Do that every season and the nematode pressure keeps dropping year over year. Number 9. Borage. Borage is a 2-for-1 that most people only half understand. Job number 1 is pollination. The flowers pull bees in hard, which means better pollination on your tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, anything with a flower that needs to become fruit. More visits, bigger harvest. Plant it alongside those crops so the bees working the borage are already right there, drifting over onto your vegetables in the process. Job number 2 is defense. Borage leaves are covered in stiff little hairs that hornworms hate crawling across. They navigate by feel, remember, and those hairs are like walking across gravel in bare feet. Plant borage along the outer edge of your tomato bed, on the side pests are most likely to approach from, and it becomes one more obstacle standing in their way between them and dinner. It's not a wall, it's a speed bump, one more layer standing in the way.
Number 10. Nasturtiums. This one flips the whole strategy. Instead of repelling anything, nasturtiums are bait. They're a trap crop, and aphids are borderline obsessed with them, more than kale, more than peppers, more than anything else in my beds. Plant them along the outer edge of the garden, away from your main crops, and let the aphids find them instead. Once the plant is fully loaded with aphids, you pull it and toss it. Decoy mission complete.
I use nasturtiums as a border around my most vulnerable plants, young seedlings, leafy greens, brassicas, pulling the pressure toward the edges where it's easy to manage instead of letting it build up in the center of the bed. Down here, nasturtiums need to go in during fall or late winter because they fold fast in real heat. I plant mine in October, and they carry me all the way to spring. Get that timing right, and they'll take the hit for everything else in that garden every time. And the bonus, radish. This one surprises people because radish turns out to be one of the best trap crops you can grow for flea beetles, those tiny jumping beetles that riddle your eggplant, tomato seedlings, and brassica leaves with pinholes. Flea beetles will go for radish before they touch anything else nearby, no contest. Plant radish as a living border around those vulnerable crops and let it soak up the damage. Once the leaves are chewed up, pull them, toss them, and replant more radish in that same spot. You're cycling the trap while the crop you actually care about stays clean. There's a bonus underground, too. Radish roots break up compacted soil as they grow, which makes it easier for neighboring roots to push down deeper and reach water and nutrients they'd otherwise struggle to find. So it's working two shifts, one above ground taking the hit, one below ground loosening things up. Plant radish along the outer edges of your eggplant, brassicas, or young tomato transplants. They grow fast, they're not precious about sacrificing themselves, and at about 22 days to harvest, they're one of the fastest wins you'll ever get in a garden. If you don't even eat radishes, it doesn't matter. Grow them purely as protection and you'll still come out ahead. So here's the way I want you to think about all of this. A garden that only relies on spray is a house with one lock on the front door and nothing else. Companion planting is more like building a whole neighborhood. Some plants are the loud alarm system, some are the friendly neighbor who calls the cops the second something looks off. Some are the decoy porch light that makes a burglar knock on the wrong house entirely. None of them do everything. All of them together do plenty. There's a lot more to this than 11 plants, which pairings actually reinforce each other and which ones you should never put side by side. I put together a free guide breaking all of that down on my website, rudyandjays.com, and it's yours for nothing, so go grab it if you want the fuller map. If this helped you look at your garden a little differently, send it to somebody who's about to start their first bed, or somebody who's already elbow deep in dirt and still fighting the same bugs every summer. That's how we all end up spending less on sprays and keeping more of what we grow. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you in the next one.